Do you ever feel like you just don't have the time to sit down and read the news every morning? Sometimes things get so hectic you can't even scroll through your feeds while you're trying to get ready. A new podcast from Boise State Public Radio has you covered. I'm George Prentice, and I want to invite you to check out The Connector every weekday morning. You can get up to speed on all of the Idaho news you need to start your day without ever interrupting your morning routine. All you have to do is hit play. That's The Connector from Boise State Public Radio. Find it wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, from the studios of Boise State Public Radio News, I'm Gemma Gaudette. This is Idaho Matters. It was December when Boise announced it was one of just 6 cities to receive a federal cash award for its housing program, working to build 250 homes for people working their way out of homelessness. The $6.6 million comes from the U.S. Treasury and is a pay-for-results program, which means the money must go to projects that show a measurable result within their communities. So joining us today to talk more about the award and where the money will go is Boise Mayor Lauren McLean. Mayor, nice to have you back on the program.
Well, thanks, Gemma. It's great to be here.
So talk to us a little bit more about this award. As I mentioned, Boise was one of just 6 cities to receive this. So how did this come about?
Sure, Gemma, I was so excited when we got the news that Boise was receiving a Pay for Success or Pay for Results grant from the Department of Treasury, because we developed amazing partnerships that I would say made our application so strong. You might remember that in my State of the City last year, I announced this Supportive Housing Investment Fund, which is a partnership with the Idaho Community Foundation. Our city, the city of Boise, committed $7.5 million, and private foundations and businesses are helping match that money. And then we said to the federal government, to the Department of Treasury, let us show you that by housing folks exiting homelessness, we are going to save the region money. And they said, we want to see it and we'll support you in that. So when we demonstrate that we've saved money by housing folks, they're going to put money back in the community foundation to make those dollars from the city and from businesses here go even further.
So with that said, where will this $6.6 million go?
Sure. The city has a housing strategy and a strategy to prevent and end homelessness that relies on housing. And so around the city, we've developed and figured out that we need about 250 homes for folks that are exiting homelessness. And we've worked in partnership to plan those homes, to start to have private developers start building them. And then with folks like Terry Riley and other services to provide services to get folks self-sufficient once they're in their home. And so some examples. You probably heard that the city bought from Boise State the Park Apartments. Those are going to be homes next year for families exiting homelessness. We've got a great partnership at New Path, which was started by Mayor Beater. In fact, Diana Lacciando was a big proponent of Pay for Success and made New Path happen the first time around. That houses folks that were homeless. Well, there's going to be another one right next to New Path on Fairview where folks exiting homelessness can live. And near our fire station number 5 in that parking lot where we've been right across from the skate park, we're in the design phases right now, a public-private partnership to create homes for folks that are experiencing homelessness but have medical needs. So we've mapped out where these homes will be, and the grant from the Treasury and the dollars that are in the Supportive Housing Investment Fund will support the services we need for those folks living in those homes to become self-sufficient so that they too can move on into a home afterwards, and we can continue to have the solutions needed to prevent or end homelessness here in Boise.
This really sounds almost like a wraparound model. Is that kind of an accurate way to describe what you're talking about?
Gemma, and that's such a better way to describe it in a lot fewer words than what I'm talking about. We know that people need a roof over their head. And then we want to help them on their road to self-sufficiency. And so providing the services wrapped around that family or individual with medical needs that's in one of these new homes will help them figure out what appointments they need, what services might be there to help them find a job, get the medical help that they need, and ultimately achieve self-sufficiency as a member of our community.
So I want to talk a little bit more about New Path Community Housing that you mentioned, because you have said that it has already saved money for the community. We're talking upwards of $9 million over 5 years. So where does that money savings actually come from?
Sure. And I got to thank Boise State for this. Back in the day when New Path was an idea, Boise State and the Idaho Policy Institute, that's also part of this grant with us, looked at the savings that would be achieved when you helped somebody exit homelessness. And as you said,
Mm.
it's a lot of money over a short period of time. That savings comes to the hospital systems, to the different services the county might provide, even the jails, addiction services. It pertains to the city. So Boise State projected what they believed would be saved and now is measuring the results at New Path. And that new data, the dollars saved that you just pointed to, was a big part of the grant that we put forward to be reimbursed for those savings into the long run. So it's both savings to public agencies, which means savings to Boise residents, right, to taxpayers of the Treasure Valley, as well as savings to our hospital system and other businesses.
So I mentioned this is what's called a pay for results program. So with that said, what benchmarks does the city have to meet?
When we put the grant forward to the Department of Treasury, the Idaho Policy Institute, Boise State said, we believe that this is the money that will be saved. Then the Treasury said, okay, we will reimburse you up to $6.5 million for those savings, but you got to show results. And so the way we will show those results is when housing is built, owned and managed by a third party, so not the city, right? The city's not in the business of building or managing the housing, and we're partnering with private development. But when those homes are opened and people move into them, there's that service provider on site. Like at New Path, there's a service provider. At Valor Point that supports vets that have exited homelessness, there's a service provider. That service provider will have to account for all the programming that they did in support of the residents at a place like the Park Apartments. And then through that, Boise State will be able to then do the research and prove how much money was saved because these services were provided. And then the community foundation will be able to be reimbursed for the expenses.
So when we look at cities, I think there is this idea that there is no way that you can stop homelessness from happening, right? Especially I think when we look at bigger cities. With that said, is homelessness a problem that the city of Boise really can solve?
And that's a question that Boiseans have been asking themselves. And as you said, many people have been asking themselves for so long.
Hmm.
Homelessness is a housing problem. The research is clear that if we don't have homes that are affordable at all budgets, and if we don't have enough homes, then folks are going to be struggling to find one. And so at the city of Boise, we've said, look, we don't want to make the mistakes of other cities and not stay ahead of the issue to the best of our ability. So we're going to address housing. And this is not just going to be the city alone. We need public, private, and now philanthropic partnerships to make sure that we've got housing at all Boise budgets, that we have market-based approaches like our zoning code to make sure that there's a roadmap for where homes can be built so we have enough homes. And while we're doing that, we're also going to work with great community partners like Catch and Jesse Tree, the rescue mission, to make sure that folks that are housed stay in their homes when they meet hard times, and those that are unhoused have ready access to services to try to meet their needs. And then the third piece of the strategy is to ensure that we have housing for folks exiting homelessness with the services, as you well said, wrapped around them to get them on the road to
Hmm.
self-sufficiency. If we do all three of those things in partnership with the community, we can have Boise-based solutions that prevents the extent of the problems that we've seen in other cities. I'm committed to it. I know that our residents are committed to it, and I deeply appreciate the partnerships that we've built and sustained to serve the people of Boise.
There's something I want to go back to that you said, and that is the cost of housing and having affordable housing for every budget. This is an issue that is not just impacting Boise, it is impacting every city, every municipality across our country. Housing is just skyrocketing to a point where so many people cannot afford it. And there almost seems to be a disconnect with the haves and the have-nots on what it takes to be able to be housed. So with that said, how do we fill in that kind of gap of knowledge for people to understand that when we say there are people that cannot afford it, even people that have full-time jobs, that is not being dramatic. That is not an understatement.
And you're so right, Gemma. That's really true. I hear from businesses all the time that when they're trying to recruit leaders to their companies or young people just out of college to pick them over somebody else so they can be competitive, how hard the discussion is around housing. Because at every price point, we need more homes. And because we don't have enough homes, the cost of housing has just continued to increase. I also like to think about it this way. When I knocked on doors and I heard so many different people talking about their kids and grandkids looking for a home, um, it was a reminder to me how important it is that we have partnerships to meet the moment. And so much more can and could be done with the state and the county and the region, because as you said, this is an issue that extends beyond Boise. But I'm focused on Boise, and right here at home, we're going to keep trying all the different ideas as you've seen us do. You've heard me talk a little bit about it today. But I often think about it this way when people ask, well, why is zoning code with more homes, more density? My family right now, my husband Scott and I have two kids. So the McLeans of Boise need one house. But if we are so lucky that our two kids choose to come home after college, the McLeans of Boise will need three homes. So this is about making sure that everybody that calls this place home, whose kids want to call this home into the future, the people that choose to live here because they know what a special place it is, can find a home and can afford a home. And I'm deeply grateful that it's the council's priority that we continue to work on housing, and that so many people in the city have stepped up to help.
I'm going to switch gears completely now because I want to talk about a new design for the city's flag. So the city just announced there's a new effort to get community input. So let's start with the basics. How old is our current flag?
Oh, the current flag, we looked through and traced back to about 35 years ago. Somebody took the logo and put it on a piece of fabric and it became the flag.
Okay, so why are you then looking for a new flag after that way of doing things 35 years ago?
So I would say a couple things, Gemma. First off, it's been so fun. I mean, as soon as we announced this, I started getting flag designs in my email box, which was really fun to see the interest. We talked about this because our city is growing, and as we grow and change, we look around, and even after talking to the mayor of Pocatello about the process they went through to come up with a great new flag,
Mm-hmm.
I thought, you know what? This is a good time to do this. It's a time for us to think about who we are, what we love so much about this place. And I'm hearing people talk about the river and the foothills and the neighborhoods, and then who we're going to be. And at a 35-year inflection point with the city growing, yet in so many ways staying the same, this is a great chance for us to rally around what we love about Boise and project that into an image for all of us to celebrate.
So you have a survey. Talk about this
Yes.
because you really do want the community's input on what to put on this flag. So tell us about this.
Oh my goodness. In fact, it's the flag, I assure you, will end up being drawn by a community member because that's part of the process. So right now there's a survey out and people can go, and we've asked folks what they think about when they think about Boise, what matters to them, both images, but also trying to get in words how people are feeling and thinking about Boise. And that will help us then put together the case statement, my own words, that goes out to the community with the elements that we have learned from this community survey that Boiseans would like to see in their flag. I named a citizen committee that will collect all of the flag designs that we receive and go through them and make sure that they match up with the modern rules of flag design and the Boise navy blue color that's got to be in it. And then importantly, all of those things that we learned from this survey. And they'll choose designs that then the community will get to take a look at and vote on.
So you mentioned this committee. I noticed our very own Morning Edition host George Prentice is on this design committee.
Yes, indeed.
How important was it to really get a real diverse a lot of diverse voices and folks on this committee.
That was really important to me because Boise is a dynamic city and we have a rich, rich history of such a vibrant moment right now happening in Boise with so many people thinking about what's next and what's ahead while grappling with who we are. And so when I sought to build a committee, I wanted people that were passionate about Boise, that had both long held roots here as well as new roots, if you will, but that have demonstrated commitment and investment in the community, whether it be through their neighborhood association or organizations and volunteering that they've done. And then it was just, got to say, it was just really fun to call folks, let them know what I was hoping that they would serve on, and then hear them talk about, in their own words, how exciting this was. But the funnest part was how much and what they thought of when they thought of Boise and what they love about her.
So before I let you go, as you said, the survey's out right now, and then once the survey is closed, the public will actually get to vote on the flag design, which I think is great. But with that said, who can submit a new flag design? I mean, anybody?
The exact guidelines are on the website. We are asking that you be from Boise. And I believe it's everybody gets to draw one flag. You can't flood the zone with lots of flag ideas. But if we're open to kids drawing flags, to young adults drawing flags, if you call Boise home, we'd love to see your design.
I love that. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time. I know how busy you are. We've been speaking with Boise Mayor Lauren McLean about a $6.6 million reward from the federal government to support the city's housing initiatives. And we just wrapped up a conversation about a plan to redesign the city's flag. We will, of course, put a link to the flag survey that we just talked about. We'll put it on our website, boisestatepublicradio.org. This is the Idaho Matters podcast. I'm Gemma Gaudette.
If you like podcasts like this, explore more from the Boise State Public Radio podcast family. There you'll find a mix of daily news, Idaho Voices, and in-depth series on a wide range of topics. I'm talking wild horses, political scandals, sustainable ranching, and militia groups in a post-January 6th world. Wherever you get your podcasts, just search Boise State Public Radio to find what Idaho's NPR station has in store for you.